That moves us then to item K, which is report and possible action on the new self-contained EBD room at Lemonware School.
I'll ask Dr. Scafano to come forward to just to field any questions that you may have. Back in March, I believe this document was emailed to you for review, and we wanted you to have the information before we began talking with the parents of students who would be impacted by this, as well as the teaching staff. What we are proposing is that we develop a self-contained EBD classroom in our district. We're looking at a small number of students who are highly disruptive in the regular school atmosphere, those students having a very negative impact on the learning of other students, and trying to provide them with a better educational option than just coming to school for an hour a day, because we have reduced their time in school. So we have this balance of, every child is entitled to free and appropriate public education, and how do we best educate those students that are struggling with personal issues that make it very difficult for them to remain focused or have a desire to learn. So we've been looking at a number of options. If you recall, Mrs. Clark earlier this year presented on the Howells program, which is kind of a service learning program that we've implemented for some of our EBD students that gets them out into the community and doing hands-on work. And that has been very productive. That's been a very successful program to date. This is another program that falls into that realm. We initially began looking at working with a carrier.
A level 1 day treatment provider.
To see if perhaps bringing them into our school setting to provide the service would be helpful, but it's just cost prohibitive. So what we're looking at doing is having a classroom where students would come basically for 3 hours a day. We'd have 2 to 4 students in the morning and 2 to 4 students in the afternoon. And they would remain in that self-contained classroom. They would not be going out for other educational purposes until they had demonstrated the ability to be in with the regular student population. All of this would have to be done through the IEP process. We'd have parent permission, and again, there was a lot of documentation that I had sent to you, so maybe we're just better off fielding questions that you may have at this particular point in time.
I think one of the real strengths of our district has been the ability to recognize when something is not working as effectively as we want, and to look for a solution. And to look for solutions that are unique to this district, or that utilize the resources we have in our district most effectively. And I think that this is a really perfect example. I've heard nothing but positive things about the Eau Claire program, and really positive responses from overall staff as to this could have a real significant impact on kids' learning, not only for the EBD students, but in creating climates in buildings. And so I think this is a no-brainer. And consequently, I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity to look at a better way to do something for kids. And so I'm going to make a motion that we approve this tonight. And it's one less thing for the reorganizational meeting.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second then to approve the new self-contained EBD room at Lemonware School. So is there any further discussion or questions?
Madam President, may I? So as I understand it, a lot of these students are already on a very reduced time frame. They go to school for
Perhaps an hour a day.
in what kind of setting?
The students that we're talking about are already in our district, our 3 elementary schools that have EBD programming within their buildings, but they're scattered all over basically the city of Tomah. We're trying to consolidate them and also get them the unique program they need, because when I say, like a student, well, this might be a classroom, would be about a good number. So let's say I'm the student that's maybe the most needy, but your needs are as important as well. If the teacher's working with me, are your needs getting met as well? And again, you can only spread someone out so much. We're just trying to focus in on not only that special needs child who has rights to have a good education, we're also looking at everybody else who have rights to have a good, safe education.
So that student who may be only coming for an hour a day is working in the EBD room for an hour.
For an hour.
They're not in the regular classroom, they're just in an EBD classroom.
And how many kids would they be with in that EBD room located out at their home school?
For the 1
For the
hour
1 hour.
It depends, because each one is unique. So you could have, it could be 1, it could be 15.
Okay.
It just depends on the hour of the day, the needs of the day. The beginning, middle, and end of the day are generally the more action.
The one concern that I had initially was, is this potentially violating least restricted environment? But everything that I was able to research and everything that I was able to find any information said, no,
No,
it does not.
It is not.
We would
And
go
I
through
knew
this
that-
entire continuum so that we would ensure that we are not in violation of that at all. That we would be, we would be using least restrictive environment, but continuing to restrict as we did not find success with the previous strategies.
I think it's just ability to use what resources we have most effectively to enhance learning for those kids is critical, and I think it's pretty fragmented right now.
Yes.
And what's the main improvement? Again, they're getting more time. I mean, they're still going from one EBD setting to another EBD setting.
It's more intense. And I'm sorry to interrupt, John.
No.
Did you?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's more intense. And again, when you take a look at the ability to focus your resources on some very fine points of behaviors, that will give you the ability to obviously look about making change as well. Because if you're having a classroom of 4 students, let's say, 4 students, and that is your sole focus, that is your only focus of working with challenging students and their challenging behaviors, you can go about trying to achieve some change. In addition to maybe there's 20 moderate to mild students on the EBD impairment issue, they can also receive some positive change. All we're doing is adding another option to our arsenal, okay? Because yes, we already do this at our elementary schools, but we don't do it well, okay? And I think Mary Ellen spoke very clearly. We do this. We want to do it better, because right now we're not getting the success that we want. I'm not saying we're doing it badly. We want to do it better. We want all kids to be able to learn.
And what we would prefer to do is, as a student, first the student is going to be identified as special ed, then we're looking at having them within the regular school population and only pulled out as necessary. But what's currently happened is, as we've pulled kids out, instead of being able to put them in a separate location where they are getting that help and they're not creating a disturbance for other students, we have to say to parents, you keep them at home. And then we'll work it out so that they can come for an hour, and having a program where we can say, this is the next step. If you're not successful in this, then we're going to be considering the self-contained classroom at Lemonweir School, working through that whole process with them.
So the current situation is essentially just pull them out of the regular classroom and send them home?
No, they've gone through being in the EBD room, but then once they're not manageable there, because again, there may be 2 students that during the course of probably more than 2. Let's take Miller Elementary. There's the potential of 6 to 8 students coming into that EBD room because during 1 hour of the day they've lost control. They're not students who every minute of the day need to be monitored, and we need to be, checking their behavior. And if you have one student in that room who is off the wall, throwing chairs, screaming, using profanity, those other 6 to 8 students are going to be impacted by that as well.
And these are also students that struggle to stay on task anyways. It's not like they're going to ignore it.
So we hope to provide better programming for the most severe of our EBD students, as well as better programming for our moderate students who have that disability, and better programming for every child because there's less disruption in the regular classroom.
It's like a range.
To get the most severe in a special setting.
You get to the least restrictive environment takes you from the classroom to the most restrictive environment, and that works. That's a two-way street. So if your behaviors are saying that you need to be in a more restrictive environment, you move to the more restrictive. And if your behaviors say that you can move back to a least restrictive environment, you move back. So it's a two-way street depending on where that student's specific needs are best met. And the child will tell you where they're going to be the most successful based on their ability to start learning and not being disruptive. And you can clearly see those. And it's once you have a good system in place, it's kind of neat to watch, but it's a real struggle if you don't have all the systems in place to put the kids so that they can learn.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. When you first see the proposal, if you don't have a history with this and know the background, at first blush, you'd be concerned that there's this movement to consolidate all the EBD students, and that alarmed me. I understand that you have to.
There will still be
make
3
arrangements.
there still will be an EBD program at LaGrange, Miller, and Lemonwire. There will be an additional self-contained room at Lemonwire for the most severe of those students.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
And again, it does require some changes throughout the district. We are looking at moving our CDS classroom from Lemonwire over to LaGrange. A lot of logistical changes, but in meeting with the elementary principals, that the location there, it was determined would be the best location.
Correct.
And we found some real benefits to making the move as well.
And, you have a staffing projection on here. Is that new staff, or will it be opened up to all staff to apply? So are we adding staff?
We are not adding new staff.
From
We're going to be
within.
using attrition. The position at the high school that was retirement, that will be moved to Lemonwire to fill this position. So staff members in district would have the ability to apply if they were interested.
Okay.
And that room that was freed up at the high school is, in a roundabout way, the room that is the person who's in the current remodel area. That person will be moved in a roundabout way to that room. So one big circle of life tonight. It's all
Big
connected.
puzzle pieces, all the pieces fit together. So,
Any further questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?